The Baylor Bears are winning the offseason, and the big move they made had nothing to do with the transfer portal. Let's get Locked On Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Bears fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by the College Football Playoff, which is interesting for those of us who are not in the college football playoff, but it's good to get that reminder. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I'm your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas. And of course, it is Wicker Wednesday with Sydney Wicker of KCEN Channel 6. Sydney, how do you feel about getting sponsored by the CFP? Oh, actually, don't say anything to demeaning. They are a sponsor, but it's kind of weird being like, hey, college football playoff.
A little weird, but let's manifest this for next year.
Next year. This is just a preview for Baylor getting in there next year.
Yes. All positive vibes, preview, sponsoring now. This is great.
I mean, the positive vibes are in the air as we are now 1 week away from Christmas. Can't wait. Can't wait. This is a Merry Christmas podcast, but
how merry do you feel right now, Cam?
Oh, just so merry. I mean,
so holly and jolly.
I had someone ask me yesterday, they were like, man, how do you keep up with all this transfer portal stuff? And I'm like, not talking to anyone in my life. That's how. Like, not leaving the house. And I mean, this is a full-time job. Thankfully, I have the time in the day for the most part. But yes, it's a lot to keep up with. And I don't think most people do.
I lean on Cam for these situations. I'm like, what has Cam tweeted today?
But at least in this Christmas season, there have been gifts under the portal tree for the Baylor Bears.
Yes, there has.
They're probably not wrapped. I'm a big time like put in a bag guy. What about you? Are you a good gift wrapper?
I try to be.
Hey, that's effort. I don't even do that.
I've started putting in more effort recently by using bows and ribbon and like getting really cute with it. But then I'm like, why am I so stressed? It's because I'm doing all these little things that I don't need to do. But I am a horrible wrapper. Like, I just don't have the technique. So that's why I try to distract with the ribbons and the bows.
Well, I'm a great rapper, but in the gift wrap sense, no.
We'll have to hear this sometime, Cam.
Yeah, I've been mistaken for Snoop Dogg before, just people hearing me. I
could so see that. 100%.
Like someone playing Dr. Dre as I'm just singing in the coffee shop. Yeah. No, I'm a terrible bag guy. Like, when I would go home for Christmas from school, when I'd have the time and I'd be at home for a week or two before, I would just find the stash of bags from last year's presents and claim them early. Dude, I mean, sometimes they didn't even get that. Like, I would just be like, here it is, man. It's in the box.
Think about how awesome it is to unwrap something. I want to make a mess. I mean, tear that paper everywhere. It's fun.
Unbagging is fine, but I also suck at giving gifts, so it's perfect. Like, you don't expect much, you don't get much. I wish I was better at that, but I'm truly so terrible at giving gifts. Like, I tell my girlfriend, like, please just tell me exactly what you want. Like, please send a link.
That's a girl's worst nightmare.
But she's good at it. I'm not.
Well, good. I'm glad.
Second podcast I've recorded today where someone has rang the doorbell for the apartment complex. Great.
Oh,
great. All right, let's get into this. We've got the portal. It's in full swing. We have been hit over the head with it the last few days. And the last few days, it's been quite successful for Baylor. We talk about the minuses. They haven't subtracted much from their starting lineup. Alvin Abicelli got some starting time. Of course, Dominic Richardson was technically the starting running back at the beginning of the year. Trey Wilson got some shine, but not a lot in terms of your starters, your impact guys going out the door. On the flip side, Baylor is starting to replace some of those graduating guys on the fly. And it was a big day yesterday, Sydney, with taking in a lot of Iron Bowl feel. They took in an Alabama receiver and a guy who looked like he was already committed to Auburn. Pretty good day at the office.
Really good day. And with the Alabama guy, Kobe Prentice, that they brought in, he's an Alabama native, which I thought was cool. So and Phoenix Jackson, he's a California native. So you're bringing two guys from their home states to Texas. Like, that's huge because, I think in college for me, I didn't really want to travel too far from home. Like, I still wanted to be somewhat close, but for both of these guys to leave their home state and go somewhere new and somewhere like Texas for Alabama, that's a little bit of a drive. Like, that says a lot.
And it also says, Baylor and TCU and Tech and Houston can rest on these laurels of, all right, let's look at the portal in terms of just guys we were looking at a high school. In Texas, you could do that, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that we initially looked for. But Dave Aranda has really kind of flipped that on its head and brought in a couple of guys from their home states and from good teams in their home states. Especially Alabama being a 4-star guy that goes and plays for Nick Saban and the Tide. And to think that a couple years later he's going to play for Baylor is just not something that goes through their heads, I'm sure. But it is a real good bounce back destination. And Kobe Prentice is a guy who, again, that we talked about it on yesterday's show, like the numbers have gone down, but you're still talking about a kid who was, again, 4-star out of high school, recruited by Nick Saban, impact player year one, and fits a real position of need for this Baylor team that's graduating a lot at receiver.
Yeah, I try not to compare too much with guys because I just don't think that's fair, but I feel like he could kind of have a similar journey to Michael Trigg, a guy who had some issues and some trouble at Ole Miss and then was able to come here for redemption and be a standout guy. I think he has the real potential to be like that. He has the experience of playing in the SEC, which is huge, and now he just needs some more reps and maybe someone he can connect better with. And you talked about it kind of being like a rebound place, somewhere to reset. And I think this is kind of the perfect fit for him.
And he was a pretty dependable guy for Bryce Young in Young's last year in Tuscaloosa. So that's a pretty good connection there. And then looking on the defensive side, because, we've kind of focused on the offense and maybe, depth at quarterback and obviously receiver, you need some help in, but there's more that you need help at all 3 levels on defense. And that's not like a doomsday scenario. That's just, hey, you got some guys who are leaving this year and then some really young guys beneath them. So you need some help. And one of those guys that talk about experience that you need to replace is Matt Jones, 6-year guy, and has been that Mike linebacker for you, kind of that quarterback on the defense the last few years. They were looking at a couple of guys. I'm still a big Travion Barnes fan, the FIU kid, but they bring in a guy with some similar similar skill set. There we go, with Phoenix Jackson. Now, Jackson looked like nailed on 5 or 6 days ago. Auburn felt they had him already. And so you not only take a productive guy out of the portal, but one that you essentially took from the SEC. Like, this guy is going to fill a pretty big role for them.
I think that talks too about what kind of athlete Baylor's really getting. Somebody who Fresno State is not as big of a university as Auburn. It's not even as big of a university as Baylor. And so to be able to get a guy like that, there's a reason he wants to come and play here. And I thought it was cool on his caption. He was like, this one doesn't need explanation. Like, he was so sure on it. That's cool. And I love that. His experience will be great. 4 sacks this season, I saw 49 tackles, not too shabby. And
pretty damn good in coverage too. Third best linebacker by PFF in coverage. Yeah. Like, that's something that I was talking about him yesterday with it, but like, that's something that Baylor's lacked. They got a little bit with Keaton Thomas, but you look at some of the last great linebackers from the end of Bernard to now, and obviously Dylan Doyle was a terrific linebacker for them. Matt Jones, same thing, but I don't think either one of them would tell you, oh yeah, I'm pretty elite in pass coverage. Don't worry, I got this. You brought on a guy in Keaton Thomas who can do that, and now you're going to have both your middle linebackers who are going to be able to do that. I think that's huge. And with these 2 guys, it's such a microcosm for what we've talked about ad nauseum. And I will mention, I'm sure 10 more times before the portal closes, Baylor is a great destination for those guys ready to take the next step, from the group of 5 conferences to the Power 4. And also a great bounce back one. You mentioned Michael Trigg. He was a good one. Steve Linton, another one. Both those guys suspended earlier in the year, but proved to be big parts of Baylor's team this year and were bounce back guys. And that's what you see bringing in Kobe Prentice from Alabama. So again, this looks to be a pretty good spot for the portal guys, especially on offense, Sydney.
Oh yeah. I think we saw how much fun this offense had this last season, I guess. We're not fully done yet. We still got the bowl game to go, but just seeing what they were able to do and what they were able to accomplish, and then of course what Jake Spavital was able to do with them and how he used them and what we saw, it was so fun. I can't stop thinking about what would have happened if they found this spark earlier. I think that's in a lot of people's minds, but to kind of get to start on a new page here soon, I think it could be really dangerous in the best way possible.
And of course, the Bears are making some big-time portal moves, but arguably the biggest move of the offseason was keeping someone in Waco and not seeing them go to the coach's equivalent of the portal. We'll tell you who that is coming up next on Locked On Baylor. But first, you guys already know about it, okay? It's that time of year. The college football playoff is back. We've now got the 12-team format, so it's going to be certainly bigger and probably better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st, this Saturday, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show. That's a lot there. Presented by AT&T at 10 a.m. Central Time, which leads into the first matchup, of course, the Ponies of SMU battling Penn State at 11 a.m. Then Clemson looks to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 3 p.m. Central. Don't miss a moment of the action. By the way, it's an all-Texas high school football matchup at quarterback, Cade Klubnik and Quinn Ewers. Watch the CFP presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. Sydney Wicker joining Wicker Wednesday here on Locked On Baylor as we are about to get even more chaotic with the schedule over the next week. I'll let the cat out of the bag now, Sydney. Sydney will not be on the show next Wednesday.
Sorry.
Yes. I hope you guys can forgive me. I'm not doing a show next Wednesday. If that's okay with you guys.
Let us have a day off.
Likely not going to do one Tuesday, and probably not Thursday, if we're being honest. And we'll get you ready for the bowl game. We'll have you ready. But if we could just both take Christmas Eve, Christmas Day off, I think that would be a great little switch up to a chaotic time of year.
As a gift from the viewers to us.
Please. I'm like asking for forgiveness here before it's even happened. But no, we're not going to have a show next Wednesday, but we will have you plenty prepped and ready for this Texas Bowl coming up on New Year's Eve day, which is awesome. You get New Year's Eve night against LSU. We're talking about the big moves that Baylor's made in the quote-unquote offseason, because it's obviously not the offseason. They have another game left, but in today's college football landscape, this is now the offseason because the portal is such a mess. And Baylor's going to be adding some big pieces. They already have, but arguably, Sydney, the best thing that they've done in this offseason is keep Jake Spavital in Waco and away from the Wolves.
Mm-hmm. Huge win for Baylor. I think both you and I were kind of convinced a couple weeks ago. We weren't sure how much longer he was going to stay and what that looked like. And there was a lot of good opportunities for him if they called. I know I had told you I would have loved to seen him go to Michigan and be their offensive coordinator.
They could use one. Yeah.
They really could.
Dialing up a pass play up there in Big Ten country, maybe.
Just look it up. It's time. But
it's really taking over. I'm telling you, it's really taking over. But yes,
but just to keep him here, this is huge for what they've been building on and what they've talked about. Coach Aranda talked about how this bowl game is going to be something that helps for next season and for next year. And this is all part of that process. And to keep so many of those pieces consistent where they need it, this is huge for them. And what a major win for them to lock this in and to keep Spav.
Yeah, and we talked about it a couple weeks ago because Tech was knocking on the door. We'll never know what the official offer was or quite how serious they were, but we heard it from Chris Level, Locked On Tech, also the sideline guy there, pretty plugged in, and said, look, I think this is Jake Spavital's job until he says no. And they hired the Texas State OC, who had a good year, and this is no knock on Texas State because I like what G.J. Kinney's doing there, but if the Texas State OC got it, chances are they knocked on Jake Spavital's door. Chances are. And I'm sure Oklahoma did too. I mean, that was a position that was open for the last couple of weeks of the season. And they obviously come with some serious pull. But But the Tech one fascinated me because clearly from what we saw afterwards, they were going to certainly give a long, hard look at Jake Spavital. And the other part that interests me with this, Sydney, is he obviously comes in this year with a head coach that's absolutely on the hot seat. And he's got to replace offensive coordinator for the third time in his tenure at Baylor. And I say this, kind of hyperbolically, not true, but essentially these guys he brings in, Keenan Hall, Jamar Chaney as well, Mason Miller, the offensive line coach, they're essentially coming in on 1-year deals.
Yeah.
Because you got a coach who doesn't know when his last game is. It could be this year. And if things didn't go well, past 2 and 4, it could have been pretty quickly, kaput. But Spavital comes in, a guy who has options. So you got to imagine he's got some extra money for Christmas presents this year to bring him into this situation now and to keep him for next year. We'll never know because Baylor's private, but I got to imagine he is being compensated quite handsomely.
It has to be.
And he's earned it. Let's be fair.
100%.
Yeah.
He's definitely earned it. There's I don't think anybody has any question about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wasn't surprised, I guess. I was just really happy for Baylor that he was able to stay. And like you said, we'll never know what that price was, but they had to compete.
Yeah.
No matter what, they had to compete.
And they have a track record of paying assistant coaches pretty well. Now, again, we don't know official numbers on these, but from what we've seen and reports we've heard over the years, Max certainly takes care of the assistants on those staffs. And again, just hammering the importance of this. This was a team that was 3-9 in 2023. They had given up the most sacks of anyone in the conference. They were the second worst running team in the conference. And year one with Jake Spavital and Keenan Hall and Mason Miller on that side of the ball, it completely turns around. You're one of the best running teams, not only in the Big 12, but in America. And you've unlocked so many guys. You didn't have Trigg in 2023, but you did have Sawyer Robertson as a backup. You did have Josh Cameron. You did have Hal Presley. You had Monterey Baldwin. And that team couldn't do anything. So just looking from the shift from Jeff Grimes to Jake Spavital, that's got to keep Baylor fans excited. If nothing else from the personnel side, from this coaching standpoint on the offensive side, Baylor fans better be excited that he's staying in town.
Oh yeah. I don't know. I don't really have a lot of words for it. It's awesome.
It's crucial because let's look at it. Because let's look at it from this side, Sydney. Let's say they do have to start over again. They do. Jake Spavital does go to Oklahoma or Tech right before the portal opens. We could be talking about a disaster this week. We could be talking about, oh my God, where are you looking at OC? You've been beat to the punch by a couple of big programs. And how many of these guys go into the portal? That could have been a real fear right now if he didn't stay, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I think right now, I think a lot of people are okay about this LSU game.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people think that Baylor's totally out of it. I mean, LSU's only 1.5 point favorites last I checked. So come on. But if he doesn't stay, that changes drastically.
I do need your opinion on this when we look at LSU in the Texas Bowl. Thoughts on the new helmets?
Love. Do you not like them?
No, I do. I like them a lot. I don't love the uniform combo in general. I don't love the gold, white, green. I'm not a huge fan of it. And overall, I don't. And it's odd. And I think you could just go all gold and that would look great. Or at least better. And I don't necessarily love cursive on helmets. I like logos on helmets, but I think these are colors that pop. And I think the cursive Baylor looks really good. I think it
looks really classy and kind of timeless. I like it. I think it's cool. I think it'll look even better though in Houston.
It better, honestly.
In the moment.
They'll have the best gold helmet out there, which is not something you usually say against LSU.
That's true.
Sydney, before we get out of this, you had a question before we started recording. You wouldn't let me know what it was, so you're putting me on the spot here. But I got to ask you a question, and I'm about to go to break here. So let's hear what this question is.
So, in the true festive spirit of Christmas, I was curious to know what Christmas song you think best describes the current state of this Baylor team.
Oh, Christmas song. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have yours while I'm thinking here?
You have my answer. Do you want me to share mine first?
Yes,
Okay.
please, because I got to think about this.
I think my answer is Silent Night because I think they've shushed a couple people.
Okay,
And they've
one way to go with it, yeah.
Yes, I know. There's
Getcha.
like 2 ways you could go, but I think they've silenced a lot of people with the noise that they were able to make, and I think they're kind of like a sneaky team that could really creep up on you. And I think that's the way to look at them going into LSU. I
Cool.
think they're gonna keep the Tigers on their toes. I almost said the Bears. They're gonna keep the Tigers on their toes, and I think they're gonna surprise them a little bit. So I'm going with Silent Night.
Okay, all right, I can see that. I've narrowed it down to 2.
All right.
I'm going to give my explanations. So the first thing that came to mind is arguably one of my favorite Christmas songs, which is specifically the Bob Seger cover of Little Drummer Boy. And he brings in so much passion to it. And it's like about these poor kids, right? The drummer and Jesus, that rise to some sort of fame. Obviously, Jesus is Jesus, and the drummer boy gets the song written about him. I like that. But the more I thought about it, I think it has to be Frosty the Snowman, because Frosty was just a pile of snow for a while. And then they make him into something, and you see that there's the seedlings of something there, right? Baylor was nothing going into the season, 3-9. And even at 2-4, you see some bursts, right? You see some seedlings there, but they're not alive yet. Then they put the hat on Frosty. Okay. This would then be the tech game. They put the hat on Frosty, the Baylor Bears, and he's alive as he can be, and they take off. And hopefully they don't take the hat off until like a couple years from now. But I think that's what, and Frosty's like flying all over town, man. Like he's everywhere, just like the Bears are putting up 40 some odd points a game. They're taking on all comers in the Big 12 and beating them. Like, I think I can link this team to Frosty the Snowman.
I love that answer, Cam. For putting you on the spot, you answered that really well. I kind of thought maybe we could go with the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer route for a minute, just with like the bright potential.
That's a good shout. And like being made fun of, like, not you're not part of this thing, this Big 12.
And then
I like that.
Like lead the way. Yeah.
And
so
then, and then when push comes to shove, Santa's like, actually, Rudolph, you're the best reindeer we have. And really the back half of the season, the Big 12 was like, Baylor, you're the best football team we have.
For sure. Major.
Oh, man.
I want to know what people think, though.
Yes,
please. Ask people to what their answer to this is.
Please put that in the comments below. Like what Christmas song is linked to this Baylor team and why? All right. I don't usually read the paragraphs that some of these opposing fans put down there, but I'll read this if you guys have a compelling argument. Please let me know. And please, Sydney, this is not the end of the episode, but I do want to wish you a Merry Christmas before we meet again and, are either really previewing or probably breaking down this bowl game against LSU. Yeah,
maybe both if we're lucky.
Maybe.
And
May it be merry and bright, and that we have some sleep beforehand. Sydney,
always, yes. Merry Christmas to you, Cam. Thanks for everything that you do. You are a gift to all of those who listen to Locked On Baylor. So.
Oh, do we have a gift for you in this third segment? We are going to try and get some answers on what's happening with Nikki Collins' assistants for the team formerly known as the Lady Bears. That's coming up next on Locked On Baylor. This episode, of course, which is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, you can view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You're going to get started with $150 in those bonus bets if or when you win that first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Today's episode is also brought to you by PrizePicks, which is once again back with the Locked On Podcast Network. Make your holidays bigger and brighter with PrizePicks, the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. You can now win up to 100 or 1,000 times your money on PrizePicks. Just now, because the holiday just because of the holiday season, I should say, PrizePicks is giving away 2 free picks in December, and they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas. All right, you guys are sitting down, you're watching all the games anyway. Why not play daily fantasy sports? Win you some money. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 off instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's so good, I'm going to say it again. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDON, COLLEGE, to get $50 instantly after you play that first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Obviously, one of the big stories of this week for Baylor has been the dismissal of 2 assistant coaches from the women's basketball staff. That actually happened on Friday afternoon. Royden Ogletree of Channel 10 was the first to have that. Kiana Ray among them. They had 2 staffers just gone, up and gone from the program in the middle of December, which is, I don't know, kind of a weird timing, I guess, to have 2 staffers, mainly on the recruiting side. Both had big time recruiting responsibilities, and they're just no longer with the team. Both were added before last season. That's Kiana Ray and Sadie Edwards. And Tuesday was the first time that we got to hear Nikki Collin talk about it. And Zach Smith, I believe, is the one from the Waco Trib who asked the question. And here's what we got from Nikki Collin on the dismissal of 2 of her assistants in the middle of the season.
Coach Sadie and Kiana no longer with the program. Why? Can you shed any more light as to why?
No, I basically I think that, we're going to stay with, they're no longer with the program. And obviously no coach, no program wants to be dealing with this disruption this time of year. But ultimately, like we're doing, what we always do and just showing up and getting ready for the next game.
All right, great. Glad we got that cleared up. Thank you, Nikki. Appreciate that. Were we expecting this grand answer and breakdown as to why they were gone? No, but something would have been nice. Instead, it's just nope. And it must be nice to be in a spot where you can just say, no, we're not going to say that. We're not going to tell you what it is. And we'll see now what we can find out, I guess. I'm glad somebody asked it because it was like the 10th question in the press conference. So thank you to Zach for asking that, because some of us would really love to have been able to be there and ask that question. So I'm glad that Zach asked it. But we do know Aaliyah Matharu might play tonight or their next game, which is the beginning of not next week because that's Christmas week. Anyway, to be honest with you, though, I don't really care about that. They're going to get Aaliyah Matharu here any day now. She's going to be a welcome addition to the team, but who cares? Like, in terms of the grand scheme of things, you just fired 2 coaches in the middle of the season, and we might never figure out why. I'm sure there are people digging on it right now, certainly trying to work the channels I can here at Locked On, but this is a weird situation. And with Baylor, we're just going to act like it's not happening. It's all well and good when, the women's team is doing really well, but we're not giving them, enough shine or enough. We're not talking about them enough because the men's team is really good. But then when something happens in the program, it's okay to just not talk at all. Again, I don't even really blame the head coach for that. I mean, I don't expect Nikki Collin to come out and say, well, yeah, because this person was doing this and da-da-da. And don't really expect that. But I'm just, it's a bummer that we have not heard anything. And it's not from a lack of trying from a select few of us, but appreciative of Zach for at least asking the question, because it didn't look like we were going to get to that phase the first 5 minutes of that press conference. But yep, Kiana Ray, Sadie Edwards, both big parts of the staff, both just gone in December without a whimper. No reason why, no clues, nothing. And just, no follow-ups to it, non-answers going with it, because that's That's where we're at. It is frustrating that this is what happens with Baylor coaches. They don't have to answer anything. I mean, we haven't had Dave Aranda give an answer in 2 years. And Scott Drew, Lord love him, he doesn't give you money answers. He does it in a very positive way, and he's not trying to BS you, but he doesn't give you many answers. And here we go again. It's really too bad, because I think, the fans that follow this team and who, hope the best for this team and these players would love to hear some answers. That's all. And who knows when we're gonna find that out. But as of right now, Kiana Ray and Sadie Edwards are just no longer with the team, and that's that. That's it. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. And if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. That helps out the channel a ton. I know a bunch of you that are watching every day aren't subscribed yet. That's going to help out a lot. And if you're listening, we appreciate that. Keep that up and tweet at us at Locked On Baylor. Appreciate the heck out of you guys. I appreciate you making it your first listen today and every day. You guys have truly been an awesome fan base since I've taken over, but specifically these last couple of months here, our numbers have gone up big time. So definitely hit that subscription button and tell your friends about it. We're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers, and hit that notification bell. You get notified every time we're dropping a video here on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. And that's big around this time of year. There's going to be weird schedules with the holidays, like we talked about earlier in the show, but there's also breaking transfer portal news all the time. So you'll definitely want to be notified of whenever we're dropping a video, and we will keep you up to date as much as we possibly can. We are going to talk, I know I said it yesterday, but we are going to talk a little LSU tomorrow and possibly their opt-out situation on your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.